how to operate as a creditor, as a sovereign.
Now, with this whole creditor and debtor thing, I see a bit of a problem with it. Certainly no one wants to be a debtor. And a lot of people then say, well, if being a debtor is bad, being a creditor must be good. And they assume these are the only two options. Yet, without sounding like a Bible thumper, I've learned a whole lot about the law by looking at the teachings of Jesus Christ. The man knew the law. And his advice was to be neither debtor nor creditor. And therefore there must be another option. And looking at it, I mean, what is our goal here, folks? I like to say that we're looking for peace and abundance. Now here, if what we're looking at, let's look at it, we want peace and abundance. If you're the debtor, it might be difficult to get any of that. If you're the creditor, however, your abundance will always be a function of the debtor's ability and willingness to pay. And if he has neither, you have zero abundance. Now, what can a creditor, there's a big difference between a creditor and a debtor, and there's one fundamental thing a creditor can do in terms of a loan, which a debtor may not do. And what is that one thing that a creditor can do that a debtor cannot? Forgive. The creditor has the power of forgiveness on their side, and they can forget the loan or forgive the loan that exists between them, and now the debtor is no longer the debtor. Now, the real problem with being either of them, I see it, is that it does require you, if you're the creditor, you're placing a demand on your fellow man and you can't forgive it. If you're the debtor, then you've placed a burden on them without sharing one back. Is there someplace else, though? The big problem that I see is that all of our abundance, what people like the anti-terrorists there are talking about, they're talking about positioning yourself to be a creditor so that you can demand money. And they equate abundance with money. Now, the problem with this is that the people who put the money in circulation can restrict the amount of money out there, thus create a situation where it's very difficult for the debtor to meet the demands of the creditor, and therefore neither of them enjoy any abundance. Being a creditor doesn't guarantee abundance when your abundance is a function of the amount of money in circulation and its value. Make all the demands you want. It doesn't mean anything past a certain point. So saying join the system, learn to be a creditor, to me, I think that's kind of wrong, because you're betting that your abundance will be a function of the amount of money available, which you can demand from other parties. Now, what if there is, in fact, another source of abundance? Let's examine that. Because that's what it's about, abundance. If we have abundance and we don't have to fight over it, we'll get peace.
You guys who are planning on checking out of the system, my question to you is, how are you going to get your gas and your electricity and your water? These utility companies have a monopoly and they refuse to contract with you on a private basis. They need your person to be able to give you those things, and you need your person to get them. So unless you're going to live in the forest and use the methane escaping from your dung heap.
Now, what I'd like you to do is imagine for a moment an island, an actual geographical area, say. Now, in this geographical area on this island, there is a house. And in the house, you have a parent and a child. Now, you also have another building over here, that's a shopkeeper. and the parent goes to the shopkeeper and engages in commerce. Now the child wants to go to the store and buy stuff for the house, but he needs permission from the parent in order to engage in commerce. This is essentially the situation as it exists now with the government. And what the anti-terrorist is suggesting is that if you do not stay in the house and maintain that child and ward relationship with the state, then you don't have a right to go engage in commerce and you should leave the island. And it's complete baloney, because you can grow up and if you want, you can create your own house. You can be the adult in your own house, and you can go and engage in commerce whenever you want. You do not need this party's permission, and you do not have to obey the rules of this house, and you do not have to leave the island. This person that he refers to is the person that identifies you as a child of the state. But bear in mind, a person is that legal subject or substance of which the rights and duties are attributes. This guy right here, the kid, can in fact have a person, and that person will be deemed to be a ward of the state, and using their permission, they can go and engage in commerce. It's all fine and dandy. But that child can also grow up, become a man, and do all of that all by himself without permission from this government state agent nanny. And he does in fact have a person. But his person is now on par or is equal with this adult and is not equal with the child. Let's suppose that this here represents the country and this here represents an estate in that country. People, when they, if they belong to a very rich families, they have a rich estate. When they grow up and they leave the house, some of the funds from that estate are still used, are still sent to him. He can collect it, and oftentimes it'll be in the form of a trust fund until he's maybe 30, at which point it transfers to him. The anti-terrorist position is the only way to go here and buy things is with their permission. And if you don't have their permission, you must leave the house. And you must leave the whole island, the town. You must go live out in the bush. I'm a free man on the land. I've got the right to engage in commerce. I'm not going to live out in the bush. And anything the child can do with permission of their nanny, of their parent, this guy can do without any permission, just as lawfully. So his position that you should keep your person, otherwise you have to leave, otherwise you don't get the benefits of commerce and you have to go live in the bush, all three of those points are completely wrong. The only thing that is affected is you won't be able to claim that this party here has a duty to feed you or put diapers on you, but nor will that party have the power to put diapers on you if you don't want them. A lot of people consider the person to be merely this child, and if you grow up, you're abandoning your person. But more likely, if you look in the criminal code and in certain other acts, you'll find that they refer to persons and classes of person. This guy right here, person. This guy, a person. This guy, a person. This guy, a person. But they all have different rights and duties. Your person doesn't necessarily, just because this guy says I'm a person and this guy says I'm a person too, doesn't mean they both have the same level of rights and duties. Because this guy's a person as a ward of the state. So yeah, he's a person, he has rights and duties. But his rights and duties, he's going to have less rights than this person over here. Some people seem to equate a person with a ward of the state. And a ward of the state is merely one class of person.